what does your team do at SBB?
First of all, thank you for having us. But yeah, Maël and I, we are in the APFZ team. Stands for Application in the Trains. And we are basically managing the comfort system. So that is responsible for information to the customer, to the passenger, and feedback, operational data back to the central site. That comfort system is kind of in contrast to the system-critical systems who are responsible for accelerating, braking, and reacting to signals from the track. So if we have devices or multiple devices who fail on a train, the train can still operate, it can still move. We are not criticals. But of course, when something is breaking or not working, then the customer experience is affected. But yeah, we brought a picture with us that you can see a little better what we are talking about. So what you see is a double rack, and it is representing one train type what we have. And on this train type, we have from each device what we are responsible for, at least one. And what you can see is displays, speakers, cameras, sensors, switches, and most important to us, it is the onboard server, what is on one side a virtualization platform, but with its modem as well, the connection to the central site. So it depends really much on the train type. When you have a single carriage, then there are only a handful of devices on the train. But with the modern fleets, when we have multi-carriage trains, then there can be about 200 or more devices.
And Maël, so for the IT admins here who are used to a not moving data center, yeah, what is different when you're monitoring a train?
Well, I think one way to explain it so that you can imagine is that we have hundreds of decentral data centers, and adding to that, they move around the country, and sometimes, or yeah, a lot of times also cross borders. So it's quite strange to have data centers which move around. What caught me off guard as someone who came to SBB from an IT background is that it doesn't really have to be an issue when a train goes offline or is unreachable. I mean, if you're in conventional IT, whatever, if you get a notification that a server is offline in your data center, you probably start to get a bit nervous. Whoa.
You have a special surprise for you. Right.
Yeah? That's the right time here on the stage.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, as I said, if in a data center a server goes offline, you probably start to get nervous. You start analyzing what's going on, and pretty quickly you're going to probably either yourself taking a car or hopefully a train, I guess, to go to the data center and fix it. If we get nervous every time a train goes offline, we'd never sleep, I guess. We'd have a very stressful life. So it also happens quite a bit that you analyze something via SSH or just remotely, and then connection just cuts off. It's frustrating in the beginning, but you get used to it. It's also the reason why some of us write scripts or use Checkmk notifications to get notified when a server is back online, because sometimes you're really eager to analyze it, and so when it comes back online, you're almost happy, like, oh, I have time again to analyze it.
Okay, so we heard, or I actually said that trains operate in extreme conditions all year round. What does that mean in practice for you?
Yeah, the data centers, data centers are normally, and you have good conditions. With the trains, it's very different. So you have an environment that has low temperatures, high temperatures, and a lot of rattling. So the devices has always to be train certified to be operating on a train. And that's especially for the harsh conditions and for the long-term period, we have to use it on the train. When we have a train standing around in the winter, the components see temperatures below minus 20 degrees, and in summer you can boil it up to over 70 degrees in a device compartment when the sun is really shining down. And while the train is moving, you have vibrations all the time. So we have to use ruggedized components. For example, when we use plug for network cable, we don't use RJ45. That would break within days or weeks. But we have 12 screwed plugs, and they are much more robust. And still, things break. So that's why we have to monitor the whole system. And we prefer, instead of waiting that someone will discover it in the depot that something is breaking, we want to know it at first and can initiate a replacement of the device itself. So that is our idea, how we operate it.
And how many trains are you monitoring?
Well, we brought a picture for that as well. That's patent pending. I think that's 2 weeks ago, the screenshot. At the moment, we have a bit over 800 trains in total, with a bit over 50K devices over all of them. Giving an exact amount of components in a train is a bit a hard question, of course, because you have different fleets and all. The general thing I can say is that, as expected, all the trains have less components. Let's say a couple of dozen components, and then modern trains, which came out recently, go into the hundreds of components. So it varies a bit, but that's the general direction.
And how do you make that visible in your monitoring, the trains?
Well, architecturally, it works in a way that we have a central site, which we engineers access, and then on every train there's a remote site which monitors the local devices and services. That means that if a train doesn't have reception to the central side, then we can't get the data, but at least it continues to monitor itself locally in a way. So, yeah, we use remote sites. It's not a big magic, but I guess we have a lot of them, so that's the...
So, but that means we have 800 trains. That also means 800 remote sites, right?
Yes.
I see people laughing. Yes. That's a lot. And does that work well for you, or do you have issues with that?
It works fine now. I'll say it's funny that you ask that. When we started implementing it, stuff worked fine. We added remote sites, new trains and all. And then at around the 512th remote site, it crashed down hard. We notified you. It turned out that some dependency had like a 512 thread limit, which we ran into. But you fixed it in less than a day, so it didn't really affect us. And since then, I don't believe that we had any issues specifically related to like the amount of remote sites. But we must have been the first ones to have that many. Yeah,
I'm really afraid now that everyone starts monitoring that many sites with a central one. Yeah, I think they have a special setup, right? So not everyone should start with that now. So now I imagine it's a really challenge to monitor trains because, I mean, they go off. You mentioned. So what happens when a train moves through a tunnel? Yeah, what happens when the connection is off?
Yeah, and connectivity is really a challenge. But at least since tunnels are kind of a thing in Switzerland, and that situation is covered, and mobile connectivity is available in the tunnels. But still, we have, of course, remote areas where the coverage is not that good, and especially with maintenance buildings, they're sometimes very old and not built with mobility in the first mind. So there, the connectivity can be weak or not available at all. And trains as well get usually switched off. But as Maël already told, that is not an alert for the monitoring team. That's just the usual case. And they come back online later.
Okay, so you using for the monitoring also real-time visualization, I learned. Can you walk us a little bit through how that looks like? How do you monitor these trains visually?
Sure, yeah. So we brought some screenshots again. We use Nagvis as expected. That's a map of Switzerland. If you've ever seen it before, you can see the locations of the train. Of course, you can also see like one train in France, and then there's a couple of Germany. If we would zoom out, you'd also see, or there's a chance that you'll see some in Italy and Austria as well. So our trains really travel far. But that's the high-level overview. It doesn't give you a ton of information, I guess. So let's head to the next slide, and we can show you. That's also a Nagvis, which we have. I'm starting with this to also pick up the question before of the amount of components. That's an old train we call Domino. It's basically ancient. It was built in the 1980s, so Benno might remember the first one when it rolled out of the factory. So maybe try to take a mental note of the amount. Oh, I see people taking pictures. It's probably interesting. Take a mental note of how many components there are, and now let's switch to a more modern one. So it's not that drastic of a change, but you see that the amount of components is denser, I'll say. For the train people, this is called the Iardosto. It was built in the 2010s, so I was born before that. And that's the cool overview for us, because if there's an issue with a component, it goes red, of course, a warning yellow, you can imagine. And if we click on a single component, you get the usual Checkmk stuff you'd expect in a Checkmk list or dashboard, and then the functionality to directly create an issue out of this. So I guess that's really a central part of our use case.
It looks very cool.
We haven't yet tried out Orgvis, but
you should try the new thing. If you don't know, there's something cool in the forum. Yeah. Okay, so I just remembered that back before when you showed your host services information. Yeah, I mean, these trains go down all the time. You have so many, like, it's hot and cold, yeah. But I looked at the numbers. I think less than 1% of your services are in warning or critical, yeah. So that's really a low number. I've seen much worse. How do you manage then that?
Well, it's pretty easy actually. We just engineer everything in a way where nothing ever breaks. So, no, kidding, of course. It's. I mean, yeah, we have the monitoring team, which is the first instance. There's lots of things they can solve themselves where they don't need like the engineering teams in the background. And then what helps is like the scale of Switzerland. Everything is a bit smaller, so the whole APF is around 40 people. That's including non-engineers and people who don't work with these things. So if they can't solve something themselves, or if they get a feeling that it could be like a systemic issue, which is starting to boil up, then they'll contact one of the engineering teams. And yeah, because we're quite small in a way, you know who does what, which team has which responsibilities, and has to look after the things. We had it yesterday when we came here. We were in a SBB train, and the seat reservation displays weren't working, and even over the loudspeaker they said, "Oh, we're sorry, they're not working." So I wrote a colleague, "Hey, it seems like the displays aren't working." 20 minutes later, he wrote me, "They're fixed." I looked up, and they were working again. So
if someone from Deutsche Bahn is here, please listen closely, okay?
Come over.
Yeah, so we call that human monitoring. It happens quite a bit, actually, because we know the train. So if we travel with the train, we look around, and if something's broken, we write in the chat like, "Hey, does someone know it?" And then that's one way. And then the last way to report issue is that there's like an app for citizens where they can report broken components. But I think most of the time they just report dirty toilets. So for us, that's not really the biggest use case. But yeah, I think we have the luck of being not like a huge scale compared to other places, so it's not that hard.
It's a lot of services, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of services, but the amount of engineers or people who manage it is manageable.
It's very nice. I'm very jealous. So Ben, has anything changed in the way how you operate the systems on the trains?
Yeah, very much. So 15 years ago, there was a whole other situation, and we changed philosophy since there. But then we often bought new trains, and we bought the comfort system as a complete system from a supplier. So he was responsible for operating the system. He was responsible for monitoring it. And that was kind of nice, but on the downside, if we wanted any changes, it was expensive, it was slow, and sometimes they were not even in business anymore, so it wasn't possible at all. And normally they were as well closed box, so no information on how it was made. Then we thought, okay, that can be the future, and we have to get back into control. And Today, we do specify the components, we specify the systems, and the train builder has to implement the devices, what we specify. And we are responsible for the implementation of the platform and for the operation. And that makes us now very flexible. If we like to have changes, we are our own men and girls, and we have to implement it ourselves. And on the other side, we are also as well responsible for the monitoring. And that's why we really rely on flexible monitoring solutions. Because, yeah, here we come to the next challenge, that we in the train industry have very long life cycles for our product. So from the moment on when we specify a device or a system till the last train from a fleet, what we just newly ordered, is built, it takes around 7 years. And then the train will work and run for at least 15 years. It gets a mid-cycle upgrade, runs for another 15 years. And in some cases, then we do even end-of-life refresh, and with that refresh, it can run for another decade. So easily 40 years. And with every refresh, it can be that we onboard it to our new platform, what we control ourselves. It can be that devices will be changed. It can be that devices will be not changed. And we will have to handle that in our monitoring environment and have a solution for everything what we have. So, yeah. Day by day, week by week, our fleet of monitoring scope is growing, and we have to deal with all of that.
Okay. I was told that Checkmk is also the knowledge base across all these train types. Can you maybe explain this to the audience? Why is Checkmk the knowledge base across these train types?
Yeah, it is an easy way for the monitoring and DevOps team to just go and have a look where a device is located in a train. Not always easy to find the device, but also to see directly what hardware version is built in, what firmware version is it running, and what configuration is loaded onto the device. So in the end, that is very useful. When you have failure, you can see as well the historical data of that device, and you can easily compare it to the other devices who are from the same type, and see very easily if you have a systematic failure. And that, yeah, with our supplement, we have to really escalate quick when we have a systematic failure.
And what can you do today with your monitoring that was not possible before?
It picks up a bit on what Benno said about just being in control of what you can do with the devices. I mean, for all the devices you can imagine, there's some simpler ways to monitor them, like SNMP and pings. And then for newer devices, sometimes they have like an API you can use to gather some data. So I think that's what made it easier for us, that flexibility and the way to quickly add a new whole type of device or just a new check type to a device or components, let's call them that. So I'd say that's really the biggest advantage from olden times.
And from an operational perspective, what difference has it made for your team and for the operations team using Checkmk?
I'd say it sped up the process a little bit and made it easier to, when a problem hits, to analyze it and then give it back. So the operational team can cross-check the status of every component in every train to see if there's anomalies or if everything is broken in some way. So they have an easier way to judge how important something is. And then also we as engineering teams have the advantage that I quickly mentioned that there's this create issue button which creates an issue in our issue tracker. And that already has a lot of information, like all of the host names, the issues, a direct link into Checkmk, so you can go check it for yourself as an engineer. So a lot of the pre-analysis is already done. So then as engineers, you can go quicker into a deeper analysis and don't have to bother with what even is going on anyways. Of course, there's still difficult problems which someone has to look at and really do a deep analysis, but the whole data gathering to handle these issues is way more comfortable, I'd say, for everyone. Yeah.
Nice. And for anyone in the room who is thinking about monitoring like a mobile or distributed assets, so not just trains, but maybe also vehicles or like any remotes or anything that moves or where you don't have continuous connectivity, what can you recommend?
I mean, that's always the case, but you have to think about what's essential in that way. I said we use remote sites for everything. That was a small lie. The remote sites are like 99% of the use case. We still do ping checks directly from the central site to the gateways on the trains, because else you'd have a really weird issue. If you don't reach a train anymore, is the remote site broken or is the train truly offline? So now we know, okay, the train reacts to a ping, it's there, but we can't get data from the remote site, so then there's an issue behind. If both are offline, yeah, it's a bit hard to know what the reason is sometimes. Of course, we have ways to check. Also, yeah, not directly an advice, but another fun anecdote maybe in that aspect, we had issues where components would crash if we would send SNMP requests to them, either at all or just too frequently. One component couldn't even handle pings, so it just hard crashed when you pinged it. So I guess we have to keep these things in mind, but that's, yeah, not. You'll find out when it happens. I'll put it like that.
And Ben, what is the one thing you wish from Checkmk, which Checkmk could better for your use case?
All in all, we are pretty fine with our monitoring solution, so it works really good. But I think for the operation and monitoring team, it would be very good if the search would improve. It's perhaps as well kind of related to our topology, but when we do make a search query, I think the data gets sent back within a second, but then to process it, it takes like 10 to 15 seconds. And in that time, you wait, and you ask yourself, did I make a typo in the query? Is it still processing? So if that would be really faster, that would help a lot. And perhaps to end on a personal note, so I have just moved my home lab to a FreeBSD system. So if Checkmk would run in a FreeBSD jail, I would set it up at that weekend. So,
Last for you, okay? Okay. With that, thank you very much. Thanks for the insights into the Swiss railway system. I think it was quite exciting to hear about the challenges which you have. And now, if there are any questions, yeah, let's. We have actually questions.
I think I need a beer now, I think.
How long does the play?
25 questions. Wow.
So yeah, a lot of people have questions. Okay, how long does it take to apply changes to 800 distributed sites?
Yeah, that's a big challenge, like the rollout of changes.
Especially since we are kind of as well regulated that you can't push out just updates to a train. Sometimes you have to announce an update for a certain train type, and therefore we have to make, let's say, a staged rollout.
But the activate changes, you know, when you click activate changes, when you do a host config change, or you don't do that many host config changes, right?
No. That we don't do.
The train doesn't change a lot, right? So,
yeah.
Okay, and I think that also answers the next question: How do you update 800 sites? You probably don't, right?
No, not really. But we do. If we do change, we do it over Ansible.
Okay, so Ansible.
I guess the question is specific on Checkmk. Otherwise, we use Ansible. We do change the trains. Yeah. I read the question, and I'm sure that we are not allowed to answer this question. So
yeah, so we will skip that question, Christian, because he's not allowed to answer it. So does every train driver at the SBB have a Checkmk monitor in their cockpit?
No, they don't.
You have a nice T-shirt, Ben, here for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I think we also have the other question answered. How do you differentiate if a remote site is down due to lost connectivity or extra errors, you do a ping check, right?
Yeah, I guess this question was probably asked before that, so if that answers it, yeah.
Oh, is the famous Glacier Express also monitored by Checkmk?
So far, we don't have it onboarded in
I
our
don't
fleet.
think
So it's kind of a special train type, and yeah, it's still new enough and that it's not on our newest platform.
Thank you very much. And
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.